welcome to another exciting show. Well, we've got quite a lot lined up tonight. And first of all, welcome from Gulag, UK. Yes, we're all under house arrest. And I don't know about you, but I'm actually finding this claustrophobic. It really is. If somebody would have told me a year ago that I wouldn't be able to travel outside where I live, they say the town or village where you live, so I can't legally travel outside the village where I live, and I cannot leave the United Kingdom. So really, it's a prison camp. So welcome, as I say, to Gulag UK. And seriously, it really is feeling very claustrophobic. I don't know if anybody else is finding this, but oh dear, it's a little bit. Anyway, on with the show. Well, first of all, I'd like to give a couple of call outs. First of all, to a mate of mine, Ken, who told me a cracking joke earlier this week and suggested I could. Well, I suggested I could try it on this program, but then I realised that if I did, I wouldn't last very long on YouTube or Facebook because it's an Avengers joke. But, you know, there's some jokes you hear and you think, yes, okay. But this one, I kept chuckling all day. You know, I kept thinking about it. It's a real good cracker. So the best brains you could think of in Great Britain and throughout the world, in fact, are working hard to find a way of me cracking that joke without getting into trouble or being banned or shadow banned or whatever. So, you know, hopefully I'll come up with an idea. But in the meantime, I've got a couple of other gags. I've got a Hancock gag that's coming later. And before anybody more gets on, you know, before the, shall we say, the audience builds up, I'll crack you this one between you and I, you see. And oh dear, we've got quite a few build up. Well, if there's any children listening, you know, covered areas, you know. There's a sperm bank. There's these bloody great cure blokes outside, you see, and there's a woman there in the queue. And a fella goes up to her. So, what are you doing here? And she goes, sorry, it's a terrible joke, isn't it? Yes. Well, let's have a look in chat first. Now, pardon me. Jimmy, I'll have a glug of Adam's ale. Now, if you're on Facebook, you'll wonder what the bleeding hell I'm talking about because I'm on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook, you know, hop over to Eric Von Essex on YouTube and hello. Anyway, Sue's in chat. First of all, we've got Ralph. Hello, Ralph. And we've got Squirrel Girl. Oh, hello, Squirrel Girl. Oh, well, that's good, isn't it? So, as I say, thanks, Ken, for that joke, but I can't mention it, you know. No, you didn't tell me the sperm bank joke. It was the Avengers joke. You might know the Avengers joke. I don't know. But what we're going to talk about tonight is compulsory immaturity. And I want to ask people that are watching whether they've come across this at all. Do you find that people regarding this scam, it is scam-demic, there's a breed of person that is immature and continues to be immature throughout their lives. Now, there are immature people who are a bit of a laugh, and they're deliberately immature just to make a laugh. Probably I might be in that category, I don't know. But and there's the eccentrics. Well, if you think you're eccentric, you're probably not. So it's for other people to judge. But there's a sort of person. Now, I used to think, now look, I feel that I'm not being racial or anything like that, but I feel that I'm probably more English than the Queen, because the Queen's German. Well, I'm a bit German. So, I mean, as I've said before, I can trace my ancestry back on my dad's side, Welsh German, because of my surname, and on my mum's side, Cornish French. And apparently, going way back, half my family fought the Normans when they invaded. And they probably fought off the Romans because of the Welsh connection, so they're tough lot of sods, aren't they? But as some part of me that's never felt really English. I don't know quite what it is. And there's certain mannerisms. I don't know whether it's because it's an island race or what it is that is very different from anywhere else that I don't understand. So I think I'm probably more continental than I'm English, even though my roots are here. When you go to Ireland, they're a bit different than the rest of a continent. But there's something that just gets me. Now, the local supermarket where I go, it's a big sort of mega store. I try and avoid the big mega stores and try and shop locally, but that won't be available in the next couple of months because they closed all the shops, apart from big supermarkets and a handful of others. Anyway, as you go into the lobby of this big supermarket, before all this cock down and all this old rubbish, they had two gigantic doors inside a lobby, and whenever you went in there was never a hold up. You just walked straight in, and you was always well, fair distance from people. You never bumped into anybody, and if there's somebody coming out of these doors, you'd stand back and they'd come through and no problems at all. Oh, not now. Oh, no, not now. Now some arsehole in management, excuse my language, has decided to put a barrier as you go into the lobby. So this lobby is very, very wide. Oh, no. They've got a barrier now that goes down, so it only allows you so it creates a bottleneck of people where you have to cramp together to get through there. Then there's a girl standing in the lobby with this carcinogenic shit that she wants to squirt in your hands. So first of all, you got to get through that obstacle course. No thank you. I don't say I don't want carcinogenic shit in my hands. I just say no thank you, dermatitis or something like that. So then you, although really we've been asked, they just sort of smile. And then you got somebody else that says, excuse me, have you a mask? And I say, I'm terribly sorry, I'm not a mask salesman. Try eBay, and smile and walk in, you see. Anyway, they've decided to split this lobby in half. So you can only go in one way and out the other way, which causes one heck of a clog up at the entrance. I mean, what genius thought that one up? So once you get through this assault course of elbowing people and shunting people around and all this, that and the other, you go and do your shopping, and then when you go out, you've got all halfway around Will's mother's, put your trolley away because you got to go round another obstacle course. But anyway, the other day I was walking out. I hasten to add, one of very few people that are not wearing a bacteria breeder or muppet muzzle, as I call them, because of the dangers. Anyway, I decided to, as I was walking out in the lobby, the dividing structure that they put up has got things for sale on it, you see. So I was sort of looking at this, looking along, thinking, oh, I've got cheap plants there, you know. I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to buy them, because if you grab the plant and walked out with it, they'd say, well, you're stealing it. Then if you turn around and walk back, you're going against the exit. So I don't quite know how you deal with that. Anyway, I was standing there looking, and there's this bloke walks in, and he must have been about 80 odd. And his wife, what is it? That fellas, when they want to show off, there's always the shoulders. Yeah, he's probably sort of age 80 odd, probably a bit of a teddy boy or something like that. And it's his wife. Now, why is the wives of those sort of people always going? They got, you know, those sort of nodding heads of those model dogs I had years ago, you know, in backs of cars. It sort of goes. Anyway, he comes along, looks at me, looking at the plants, looks around, goes up to the girl. Hello! Then squirts this load of cancerous shit in his hands, and it holds his hands up like this and looks around and say, aren't I a good boy? I'm washing my hands in this shit. Then he puts his muppet muzzle on, and walks in. And I thought, how immature can you get? It's a sort of, and there is this group of people. Now, I've said in the past, would our ancestors have put up with what we're putting up with now? And I said, no, they wouldn't. For example, if they found out that teachers were teaching little children about oral sex and things like that, our ancestors would have probably gone into the school, dragged the teacher out, and if the teacher was lucky, there he would end up swinging from a tree, and or otherwise they'd have given him a bloody good clap round the ear hole and said, "Don't you teach our children this again." But I wonder, would they have done that? Because when you look back in history, people are sort of pacified. I mean, you think years ago they used to burn people alive during the Tudor period. Now, they must have had people, and public executions in the 18th century. Crowds of people there, and all this, the French Revolution and things like that. So I really do think that there's psychopaths, there's the sort of child heads, people that never grow up, who want people to think for them but can't think for themselves. And then there's always the minority who actually are the thinkers, who sort of say, well, hang on about, I don't know what's going on here, and think for themselves. And when you, I was watching, was it Fire Angel? Now, she's one of these people, she's got a camper van. Well, she's a converted van. And it's very interesting what she was saying. She studied, excuse me one moment, I need another glug. She studied history, and she said that in the 18th and 19th century, the people who were put into lunatic asylums were generally the people that thought differently to other people, who started to sort of work things out for themselves. Now, can you imagine if it was possible for us to get into a time machine and go back to 1914, just before the First World War, and tell the people then that there's going to be an absolute mass carnage over the next 4 years of millions and they're going to be a shortage of men because it's just going to be absolute carnage. They would have, well, you'd probably been beaten up. And if you'd have survived that, you'd been arrested and said, how dare you say such terrible things against us British jolly chaps, we're going off to fight the Hun and all this sort of crap. Would have been true. It's again, if you got on the Titanic and said, excuse me, this Titanic is going to sink, you'd be locked away. Don't frighten the ladies and the children. How dare you discuss? They'd think you was mental. But it'd be true, wouldn't it? Because we know. And when you look at the Loony Brigade, now, my dear old dad, as I've said this many times before, he was in the Second World War. He was a conscript. He absolutely detested the army. And something he mentioned to me, which I've never forgotten. And he said, when he first was conscripted in 1939, at the tender age of 20, wrong age, wrong time, he said what he couldn't understand was, I mean, he had all types in the army. I mean, later he went into the frontline intelligence. I say a very low rank, and the frontline intelligence had one of the highest casualty rates because they had to go behind enemy lines. But what they did, they picked out the rather intelligent people out of the army, and they put them in frontline intelligence. Anyway, what's the old saying? Military intelligence is in contradiction of terms. Anyway, on with the story. He said, when he first was conscripted, he had to do square bashing, and that is, arms left, putting rifles and all this, that, and the other. And he said, complete waste of life, complete waste of time. And he said, what he couldn't believe was, I mean, when you had time off, my dad would be trying to educate himself. He'd be reading a book. He'd be writing poetry. He would be writing different things. He was a writer. He was highly intelligent. And he said you get these bozos for hours on end practicing with their rifles, going arms lift, arms right, loving it. He said, what possible use in their life would that be? You know, the loony brigade. And I've found that this childishness has sort of kept on. Now, after the war, my dad didn't want anything to do. I mean, he had a fantastic array of medals, but he never wore them. They're still in the box. Never wore them. And he said, and they're tarnished and they're threadbare, and that's how they arrived. He said, keep them like that and show future generations what this country thought of the people. So they're in the box, and I'll show you one day on screen what they're like, how they arrived. Absolutely disgusting. And he said, I want that to be as an example. But what he couldn't believe after the war was there was regimental veterans associations all around the British Legion, seeing people wanting, he couldn't wait to get away from the forces. He hated it, loathed it. And when he was he went to get grade A1 fit and came out grade E, which I think is the lowest grade in 1945. Guess what pension he got? Oh, it's fantastic. He got, oh, yeah, it's nothing. Anyway, that's another story. But what I'm going to say is, what him and my uncle, who was also in the frontline intelligence, what they noticed was loads and loads of people who were conscripted just after the war that saw no action, that were really keen to march along with medals on all this, and they called it the Just Missed It and T-Boy Brigade, because they wouldn't have been seen dead in a veterans association. I mean, my dad never wore any military regalia after the war. He never wanted anything to do with the forces after the war, and most of the conscripts had that mindset. They just had enough of it. They didn't like it, but it attracted like schoolboys. And my dad said they're overgrown schoolboys. Just look at them. And I remember in the mid-90s, because he was in the siege of Malta, the Maltese government very kindly issued everyone that was in the siege of Malta a little medal. And it was paid for by the Maltese government, and you could go down to the Maltese embassy down in London and pick it up. So I said, oh, come on, Dad. But Dad first of all, I don't want it. I said, look, Dad. And I applied for it. And he got it because he was there during the full siege, you see. Anyway, I went down with him. Just give me one moment. I went with my mum, and I took my mum and dad down there. And it was very nice. And the press were there. And there was some bloke who was in his military regalia. I mean, my dad wore a suit, he looked smart, with his badge like this, you know, the old, and again, his wife was, it was the shoulder brigade. And this bloke, I kid you not, he was in the Navy. He was conscripted right at the end of the war, and his ship called in Malta. Okay, he never saw any action at all, apart from when it went to port and it went down Red Lout district, probably. But that's about it. And he saw absolutely sod all action. Yet he was full of that. And the press were around him like flies. They wouldn't leave him alone. Oh yes, well, we went in there and we saw how the bombed out places were. And I went up to, there was someone, I think, from one of the big newspapers, and I tapped this journalist on the shoulder and said, excuse me. Yeah, yes. So I said, my dad was in the full siege of Malta. No, really? Yeah. And I said, what was he in? So I said, oh, he's in the army. Oh, so I said, you know, he was, I said it was combined. He was actually on the airfields and that, and he's written a book about it. Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. They were looking on the bloke who was talking a load of bullshit, who his ship called in for 24 hours. There was no siege when the ship called in, and he saw no action because it was the end of the war. But just because he just screamed in, and you would have thought this bloke had seen everything because he'd seen all the John Wayne films, and the press were writing all the crap, you know, from what he said. They didn't want to know anybody else. And this is what we're getting, this kind of fake history. And this comes round to what governments do. They tell you what they want you to believe, but not necessarily the truth. Those veterans, remember of those veterans associations, what were they doing? They were displaying an image of war veterans that the government wants the public to believe, but not necessarily the views of veterans. I mean, they're nearly all dead now, and you don't really see them, but in the 1990s, there's still quite a few alive, including my dad. So, it just makes you wonder. This is how I think the government is getting away with this scam, because they're relying on the child mentality, the not quite brigade. And I think that if you are a free thinker, it's really, really difficult, because they've got this sort of channeled mind. Now, I've said for years, if the government wanted kamikaze pilots, they would go along to one of these advertising agents, and I'm positive these advertising agents wouldn't say kamikaze pilots, they'd say enlightenment pilots. And they'd have posters everywhere saying, become today's enlightenment pilot. And you'd have posters of people looking into the sunset. And you'd have posters put up saying, think of the health benefits of flying in an open cockpit, all that, fresh air, free flight training, and then in very small writing at the bottom, it'd be, there's a 99.9% chance it's a one-way journey. And I can guarantee you would have a queue wrapping around a corner of people volunteering for it. Guarantee it. Oh, you want to be an enlightenment? Oh, yeah, I like flying. Yeah, it'd be good it was. I'll tell my parents afterwards. Yeah, but it's only a one-way flight. Anyway, let's go into chat and we'll have a look, see what we've got to say. Yeah, what we got here. Blimey, we've got a lot in chat tonight. Now, squirrels, was it? Oh, hang on, I've got it. Squirrel goes, muzzle free and proud. Yes, that's me. I haven't actually worn a muzzle at all. Not at all. I don't particularly want bacterial pneumonia. You've hit it on the head, Squirrel Girl. It is a new religion. I call them COVID fundamentalists, because that's what they are. And the real extremists are the Gates fundamentalists. Oh, I can't wait for Bill. Because the BBC, I think they ought to call it Bill's Broadcasting Corruption. That's what it is, really. Now, let's have a look. It's got Dave and Bart. Oh, hello. I think I know who you are. Hello. We speak on Facebook, I think. I'm literally the only one not wearing a mask in the small town where I live. Oh, sorry, no, because... Sorry, I'm muddling you up with somebody else. I really don't want to be here anymore. This planet is ruled by the devil. Couldn't agree with you more. But there's one thing. Have a laugh. Because I just take a step back and I just think, what is wrong with these people? I mean, I was in this big major supermarket on Friday and I was walking around and there was only two other people that were Muppet muzzle free, and they had what do you call it, what's that thing they put around your neck? Well, oh Christ, can't think of the name of it. Anyway, I come to it, lanyard, that's the word. They had lanyard around the neck. Now, I will not wear a lanyard around my neck, because I've downloaded the little card that you can get from the internet, because I'm not an exhibitionist, and I don't see why I should. If someone says, hey man, you got a mask, if I'm in a humorous mood, I might say, I'm afraid I don't sell them. But if it's just a sort of employee, I just shove the card and just put it in the pocket and walk in. And if I forget the card, I just say exempt, and that's it. But sometimes, I feel a bit of a sort of one of those sort of cheeky moods. I might. Right, now what have we got here? Squirrel go. I quite enjoy being only the one without a muzzle. It's empowering. It's funny you should say that, Squirrel. I find it empowering. I feel sort of, yeah, I'm a bit different. Yeah. Never got another one from Screw Girl, was it? That's because you've got superpowers. That's right. Now, what have we got? Got here Squirrel Girl. Where's Monkey Joe? Oh, I don't know about that. Now, I got Dev and Bar. I've been a hermit for quite a time now. Yes, I agree. My ambition is always to be a dropout, an eccentric dropout. But again, if you think you're eccentric, you're not. Having deleted my social media accounts, good idea, a few weeks before this COVID PSYOP kicked off, I am lonely and powerless. No, you're not. You got us. Hey, the situation seems completely hopeless. No, you got the human spirit, because I'm going to go on to positive things that we can do. Okay, and but don't you worry. You're not alone. I mean, have a laugh. Find it empowering. Let's face it. When you see all the sort of the soppy sods walking around going, oh. It's funny, isn't it, really? I mean, imagine what it was like at the beginning of the World War One, and people had been hyped up for 20 years prior to that First World War by the newspapers of hating Germans. Yeah, these Jerry, no, it's the Hun in those days. Yeah, it's the Hun, you know. They couldn't wait. They're biting at the, you know, go away, you know, go and fight for your country, when Britain wasn't under any fear from an attack at all. I mean, in 1914, Britain had a navy that could have blown the American navy out of water. It was big. They had no fear at all. And why we entered into that war, well, that's for another program. But right, now what have we got here? Go out into Mother Nature and she shall heal you. Yes. Well, where I am, it's what is it? It's I only heard about this because I only listened to the. Well, I don't call it news. I call it propaganda, mainstream propaganda. I try and avoid it. And I heard it, and he heard about it. Was it yesterday afternoon? That was in what's this tier 4 or something? And absolute nonsense. Yeah, you're right there, Magic J. Propaganda. Right, I got Phil. Hello, Phil. The real conspiracy theorists are the mask-wearing bedwetters. Oh, I like that one. Who trust and believe the gov. Yeah, the mainstream media, despite all the factual evidence proving otherwise. I mean, let's face it, lies need preserving or protecting by law. Excuse me, itchy nose. But truth doesn't. Truth is pure. It doesn't need to be protected. Truth is truth. It's pure. It's clean. You know, there it is. What can you do? Anyway, what have we got here? Yeah, I've been pondering, throwing myself down. Oh, you don't want to do that, Dev Amp Bar. Actually, mind you, after you've heard the dirty joke tonight, you might want to. Sorry about the sperm bank joke at the beginning of this program. Yeah, it was a bit rude, wasn't it? But you could try and think a way out. I could tell the Avengers joke. If I did, I'd give it about 10 minutes before YouTube went delete. Right. Phil Howard, yes sir. Not worn one once. I guess that's the masks. Hello, Emin. Branch COVID. Was this branch COVID? Covidence. Branch Covidence. Covidens. Hey, we got someone from Australia. Hello, Jamie. Greetings from Australia. Hello. Great. Actually, I used to work. I've never been to Australia, but I worked in London in an office where I was outnumbered. There was only me and an Irish bloke that wasn't Australian. It was full of Australians, and I kind of like Australian rebelliousness. I don't know. I kind of like that. You know, I mean, during the First World War, and I'll keep on about this, they did not shoot people at dawn. and anybody that was tied to the wheel of a gun carriage, they cut them loose. So I kind of like that Australian sort of, yeah, bit of rebellion there. We got Emin again. What we got? Oh, sorry, Squirrel Girl. It's insane to watch people just comply and no resistance. Well, what I've actually found is if you tell these people, I mean, you see these lots of YouTube videos of people protesting and the police going up to them saying, "Is it? Oh, turn around, I'm going to arrest you," and all this whole crap. And they start laying down the law. You're not allowed to say this. Did you realise that UN Agenda 2030? I'm sorry. Why are they in the police? Why are they doing that job? I couldn't do that job. Could you do that job? Because if they told me to do something that I thought morally wrong, I couldn't do it. And I would think it morally wrong to stop people protesting. That to me is morally wrong. No, I'm not going to do that. If it was helping people, like helping an old lady across the road or something like that, that's different. But I'm sorry, going out there and causing and going forward with your truncheon and knocking old ladies down and things like that, no. And I think they're being used for a political reason, the police, and they don't realise it, because I think they want to create civil upheaval, and then, as what was said on Richard D. Hall's program on richplanet.net, little plug there, which I think is quite right. Somebody mentioned, and if you look on his latest videos from his website, somebody mentioned that the powers that be want to start civil disobedience. That's why there's lots of these fake rebellious groups. And then they can turn on a weapon that kills people. And then what will happen, the rest of the thicko population will turn on those of us that are opposed, that could see through what's going on. Can you see the logic there? I can. So what they do, they infiltrate and create protest groups. The protesters go out en masse, and then the powers that be use weapons that make people, because they've already got a weapon that makes people have heart attacks, drop like flies, and then they'll blame the protesters for spreading the nasty germs when they're not. So then the rest of the population turn on the protesters. I hope I'm wrong, because that was mentioned on Richard's program. Somebody sent him an email that mentioned that, and I think he was open-minded about it. But I thought that before then. I thought there's something a bit strange going on. Right, let's go back into chat again, and what we got here. Crumbs, it's really sorry if I don't read all your comments out. I do apologise. I am human. Emin, cartoon villains aren't what they used to be. We used to have Dick Dastardly, and now we've got this virus. Yes, I won't say it, you know. Phil, 2020, not a single religious celebration, no Easter for Christians, no Eid for Muslims, no Hajj for Muslims, no Diwali for Hindus, no Vaski for Sikhs, now no Christmas for Christians, Halloween allowed for all. Very, very good point. But have you noticed that every culture around the world, it doesn't matter where you go, we have a greeting where you have human contact in some way. Now, Romans, they used to shake arms, didn't they? We shake hands. The Japanese, they bow. It's a human contact. And the thing is to bow and smile. And apparently in the Japanese culture, the lower you bow, the more humbled you are. And you're putting the person you're bowing to on a status. And you look at these people that go into the jungles and meet tribes. They've all got this, they'll sort of hug and they'll shake hands. And there's a human bond there. And let's face it, we are exchanging bacteria in a funny sort of way. And of course, that's making our immune system pretty strong. And just think, if all this nonsense ended now, I think there would be people going down with runny noses and flu and God knows what, because their immune system has been weakened. I mean, I went into the pound shop the other day, and some bozo sprayed God knows what, I suppose it's disinfectant, around the exit. So when I bought my goods, I went through the entrance. I don't want to walk through that, whatever it is, crap. It gives me a sore throat. If I breathe in antiseptic, it does something to my sinuses. Anyway, let's have a look at my notes. I made some notes. Well, you know, as I've been saying earlier, it's Mark Windows calls it the hive mentality. I call it the wolf pack. You know, and my dear old mum used to say, "Oh, they've taken the whenever you came up against somebody with a child mentality, she used to say, oh, they took their mums took their dummy out their mouth too early." There's probably a possibility there, but what's this? I can't even read my own writing. That's how bad it's got. But no, to me, oh, that was it. This is something very important, I'd like to say. I wonder if anybody else has noticed this. Now, they haven't noticed that I haven't got a television. I booted my television out about 10 years ago. Best thing I ever did. I literally now, if I sometimes I saw a bit of a BBC News on YouTube, but that's the only time I'd see the BBC, because it was I'm making a comedy film. I won't say what, but just to cheer up everyone up, I got a bit of a comedy film, a bit of satire, but I needed a bit of BBC in there to basically take the piss out of them. And I saw this for about a minute, and I felt physically ill. I just can't stomach the BBC. It's horrible. And it was talking about the scam-demic, and in the background there was like a wall painting of injection needles. Now, if that's not working on your subconscious, I don't know what is. Now, that reminded me of something. Has anybody ever heard of the subliminal strip? Well, if you haven't, I'll just briefly explain what it is. In the 1950s, they discovered that if they showed a film, they did this in America, so they were, you know, what they call movies over there, or flicks if you're in Britain. If they put, say, 1 or 2 frames in a film of, say, a hamburger, where you wouldn't notice it. So you're watching a film and you're sitting there, but your subconscious would pick it up. So you'd see a film, and every couple of minutes, or 10 minutes or whatever, there'd just be a couple of frames of a picture of a hamburger. And they did this as an experiment. And after the film, loads of people, even people who didn't like hamburgers, were queuing up buying hamburgers. And it was the subconscious message being sent. And people didn't know why they bought a hamburger. They just felt they needed to buy a hamburger. And they banned the subliminal strip. Now, the first Gulf War, or was it the second? I think it was the first I saw. I did have a television in those days. And I remember, no, I think it must have been the second. I switched on the BBC propaganda and or Bolshevik broadcasting communism. Excuse me. And for a split second, I saw a picture of an artillery gun. Just went. That's a bit strange. And then as a newsreader's sitting there talking, and this is before the Gulf War, before it actually started, and they said, you know, the usual old crap, you know, we've told Saddam Hussein to leave Kuwait and blah, 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 usual. And we're having peace negotiations, we're trying to avert war and all this crap. All of a sudden, another picture of a gun again. And this kept happening. And the way I found this out is I was videoing something and it overran into the news. And when I slowed it down, I could see they put several frames of this gun into the news report. That's the subliminal strip. Why? Now, I'm wondering, as now there's no law, and to me, I look on government as basically a branch of the mafia. And when people say, "Oh, write to your MP," to me, you've probably got more chance of convincing the head of the mafia to become a Jehovah's Witness. Probably got more. I mean, you're pissing in the wind, basically, because to me, they're just useful idiots. They're mafias. That's why I don't vote. I'm wondering whether and I can't blame. I've got no evidence at all. And it's just by sheer luck I found that from that video that I did. And I think it was something times, because in those days with the videos you could put it on timer, and it overran. I think the news cut in early or something like that. I can't remember. But those frames were put in. Now I'm wondering whether they're putting subliminal strips in now, and that's what's making people wearing these muzzles. Now, those of us that don't have a television or watch the television, we're more open thinking. Just wondered what you thought about that. What do you think? Do you think there's something in that? No. Anyway, let's go back to chat again. Let's have a look, see what we got here. What we got here? Hello, Dev Amber. I just want to say thank you for trying to cheer me up. It's appreciated. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I mean, you got to look on the bright side. When you think about it, it's always darkest before the dawn. And often our worst fears don't materialise. And I've got a feeling when you look back in history, things that you think are going to happen, that you think are positive, don't. I'll give you one example. When I was talking to Caroline last week, so those of you that saw last week's programme think, oh, bloody hell, he's not on again about bleeding history, is he? But anyway, make a cup of tea if you saw it last week. But what I was going to say is, hang on, I'll just read that later on. What I was going to say is Napoleon, not on his own, but with his army, was due to invade Ireland. And the plan was, they found out through spies and that the British garrison in Ireland, because in the Napoleonic days, Britain owned the whole of Ireland. And they found out that the British garrison there was very thinly spread. And with the help of Irish underground movements who wanted independence from the British, Napoleon decided that if he attacked Ireland, it would just be a walkover, and Britain would not be able to reinforce quick enough, and they could just go take Ireland, sort of, I won't say overnight, but rather quickly. And the garrisons there, British garrisons, were supposed to be completely overrun. So the entire fleet went to invade Ireland. Now, if that had happened, people in Ireland would be speaking French now, not drinking Guinness, but champagne. Ooh la la. Who just think it'd be quite interesting. But a storm blew up just before they invaded and smashed the whole fleet up. Never happened. Look at the Armada. Storm blew up. Although there's not one Spanish Armada, there was several of them. I think 17 in all. They had 17 attempts. But things happen in history that you don't expect, and human nature is very, very strange. So you see, I mean, I'll be straight with you. I do suffer from a little bit of depression sometimes. We all do. I used to get it really bad, but I've found techniques to sort of pull yourself out of it. And the way I pulled myself out of it, I used to write sort of comedy bits and laugh myself out of it. So, don't get depressed. It's easy for me to say that. I'll tell you the worst thing is when people say, pull yourself out of it, all that sort of stuff. But no, you can't. And it's a personal thing, but you're not alone. All right, let's put it that way. You're not alone. Right, what we've got here? Yeah, I know. Used to read the comic. Oh, Captain Britain. Yes, that was mentioned earlier. And we got here Devant Bart. Plenty of live chat streams to find like-minded people. No field ash. Right, no. There's a lot of people feeling lonely at the moment, don't worry. Oh, Jamie, you should try watching Aussie TV. I've seen a bit of Aussie TV. God. I think the BBC and Aussie TV are in competition to be the crappiest. It's awful, isn't it? Ralph, haven't watched TV for 30 years. Feel great. Yeah, my one is about, say 10, about 12 years, I think. 10, 12 years, something like that. I don't know. Right. So I haven't watched TV for 20 years. Blimey, they're beating me a lot here. Me, it's 12. Best thing I ever did. That's right. Do you find, though, you just can't stomach it now? I just can't. I literally can't stomach it. I don't know how people can watch it. It's so awful. Squirrel go where? This is Dev on. Yeah, this is sorry, Dev and Bar. Squirrel go where? On YouTube, do you mean? What I wouldn't give for a face-to-face convo over a piping hot, delicious cup of tea. Oh, don't you worry. Well, I'll have a cup of tea next time, because between you and I, I'm going to be hoping to release the comedy film this week. A bit of a laugh there. And I might be doing another live one this week. Might be going on Friday on Christmas Day. Why not, eh? Be a bit. So, anybody want me on a Christmas? Have you had enough of me tonight? Put down that nurse. Oh, this is Jamie from Australia. That nurse that collapsed the other day has gone missing. In the Sun newspaper for what it's worth. Oh, the Sun newspaper, that would be the Australian Sun newspaper. The British Sun newspaper, it's very expensive toilet paper, you know. I prefer to use, the soft toilet paper, right, with bum on. Cool. Blimey, we've got a lot in chat, haven't we? Yes. I like this one. What's a TV? That's a good one. What we got here? If you look at microphone in front of the nurse who collapsed, you see the number 33. That's right. That's right. And it's all numbers, isn't it? Is it very strange? That seems to be happening. It was the 20th that this tier 4 thing kicked in. And the 21st is the shortest day in the Northern Hemisphere. And, I'm envious of you in Australia. You're going through summer. Oh, do you know, today, it's probably the same where you are in Britain, and also over, I would think shall we say in Western Europe, it's been overcast and drizzle all day. And it got dark. Officially, it gets dark about 4 where I live, but it was about 3. Oh, it gets light about 8 o'clock and dark about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know how anybody could live with the midnight sun when they go further north. And we got here, as I say, I do apologise if I'm not reading all your comments out. I am human. It says, Jamie says, tell lie vision is a brain manipulating device. That is why they're called program. That's a good one, isn't it? Programs. Is it like when you write anything, you spell? You're doing spells and spelling. And somebody mentioned the other day, democracy, demonocracy. That's an interesting one. So let's have a look at the what we got. Yes, well, I was going to end off with talking about how films manipulate people, and all this again is all giving you an image. Now, for example, my image of, say, the American Civil War. Okay, now I've never been to America. As far as I know, I don't know of any relatives that fought in that war. I might have had, I don't know. But my image of the American Civil War is grainy sepia photographs and American Hollywood films. Now, if a veteran from that war could suddenly spring back to life and look at what we're looking at today, they'll probably say, this is a complete load of crap. It was not like that. And my dear old dad used to get really frustrated when he saw these American war films. One was Saving Private Saving Private Ryan, because he was actually he was one of the first assault waves on Gold Beach D-Day, and he was right next to where that film is depicted, Saving Private Ryan. And he saw the film on video, and he said whoever advised Spielberg wasn't there. And the thing that he gets up his nose was they always show you Americans with their steel helmets undone, and he said they lost their helmets because they went into deep water when they got off the landing crafts. He did, and their helmets had to be tightly done up. And the other one is them shouting orders. It was so loud you had to do sign language because you couldn't shout orders, and a lot of the chaps suffered hearing problems, including my dad afterwards. Their ears were ringing because the bombardment was so intense. And my dad, being in the intelligence, had to go forward, and the only way they got off the beach was to run across a live minefield. And they didn't have the time to use an entrenching tool and go along like this. They had to chance it and run. And they didn't know at that time that only 1 in 6 mines was live, because the RAF had bombed the trains that were carrying the detonators, but they didn't know it. And my dad said whether he stood on one or not, he doesn't know, but obviously it was not a live one, because he probably I wouldn't be here today. But this is the things that it's always from a propaganda perspective, isn't it? Have you noticed that? I mean, when you look at these crap films about World War II, and I'm going to upset a lot of people here, I think one of the crappiest films was Where Eagles Dare. What a heap of pile of shit that was. I mean, first of all, they had, I think it was a Bellevue helicopter in it that wasn't invented, didn't exist in World War II. It didn't come along until the Korean War, which was in the early 50s. And then you've got Richard Burton acting. And you know, I said about Star Trek, all the actors looked as if they was acting as if they had a cucumber up their arse. Well, in it with Eagles Dare, they all looked as if they were suffering from chronic constipation, weren't they? And they're really trying to act out as if they were psychopaths. And I wonder what the Germans think when they see those shit films. Yeah, hello, Daddy boy. And all those naughty Germans, they all have subtitles and arrows go, nasty German, even nastier German. What do the Germans feel about that? I mean, I used to work with a German chap called Jochen, and that was at the time when Hello Hello was on television, and he had a terrific sense of humour. And we used to take the piss something awful. We used to go up to it and say, here are the drawings from the structural engineer. I will say this only once. I've probably told you this before. He went back to Germany for the weekend and he came back, he had backache. One of the blokes said, yeah, it's all that goose stepping, mate. That's what's done it. He sort of joked. You couldn't say that now. I mean, it's a bit like the Avengers joke. Now, I could have cracked that about 20, 30 years ago, although YouTube didn't exist then and nobody would have batted an eyelid. Can't say it now. That's the problem. But the only person I really do, one of the people I do admire, was Stanley Kubrick. I think he was a genius at film. I really do. And Dr. Strangelove, I think, I often see that cracks me out. But I think one of his better films was Barry Lyndon. That was pretty good with Ryan O'Neal. And when you look at the cinematography on that, it's brilliant. It really is. And when you look at, like, for instance, battles, you look at the way the police go and charge in to people now. It's the same strategy that's gone back years. Now, Barry Lyndon, I think, was set in the 18th century. And the way they did battles in those days was the same as what they did in the First World War and the Second World War. The artillery would start up and blast cannonballs and shells and Christ knows what into the enemy side. And then the infantry would go in and at point blank range walk straight into the line of fire, with bright coloured uniforms, so they stuck out like a sore thumb. And it's only in the First World War they decided to have khaki, which they didn't stick out like a sore thumb, but it was a similar principle. They went over the top, over the trenches, and in the Second World War and in the Vietnam War, it's the same. They just blasted away with artillery, and then the infantry went over the top and tried to kill the enemy. That was it. I think it's the same, possibly, I don't know, it's probably the same principles today. But when you look at the Trafalgar Square protest marches and things like that, the police stand back. What do? They look kind of worrying by standing there, frighten people, and then they send the silly sods in with batons. But anyway, I hope they're not all silly sods. Anyway, I'll just read a few more and then I'll tell you the dirty joke. Now, what we got here. And again, I do apologise if I haven't read out all your comments. So, every war since Napoleon has been funded and started by the Rothschilds. Yes, that's right, Jamie. That's right. And even the French Revolution was something to do with them as well. And this is Dav Ambar, the Really Graceful channel has just done an interesting video about Hollywood, Operation Mockingbird, etc. To me, Hollywood is a cesspit. Jamie Ralph Winter, Jamie Coffey, yes, check out the Movie Society 1989. And Jamie from Australia. Oh, by the way, I guess it's morning in Australia. Good morning, Australia. Yes, it's almost 9 o'clock in the evening here, or night. Look up Hollywood and adrenochrome. Interesting. And it's Phil Howard. Check out the new movie Songbird. Talk about propaganda. Oh, yes. Well, again, going back to that subliminal strip, I can't accuse. I don't know. I've got no evidence. I did have evidence of the Gulf War with those subliminal strips, but I just wonder what's going on now. And always a good one here from Dev Bar. Propaganda. Edward Bernay's grandson was a founder of. Hey, I didn't know that, was he? Edward Bernays, bloody hell. Talk about shit, Edward Bernays. I reckon he's looking up from hell now and cheering, thinking, all my work for they're using his what he discovered, aren't they? Now, this is Jamie. Hello, Jamie. A Rothschild said there would be no wars in this world if my boys never wanted them. That's spot on. Yeah, you're right. I think that the big problem I found is there's loads of sites and videos, people telling you how horrible it is, but nobody's got a solution. I haven't got a solution of how we solve this problem, but it's mainly, I've said this before, it's normally the usual thing of, there's a spiritual awakening. Well, again, as I said before, there was a spiritual awakening in 1920. And I think the government were behind it and the secret services, because people were saying, we never have another war in the 1920s. And then in 1921, the British Legion was formed as a pacifist organisation, would you believe? And it had a delegation that went to met Mr. H before World War II. And then in 1939, it completely changed. And it became, in my view, allegedly, a propaganda arm. But it always was a propaganda arm, because it actually, what it did, it told people what they wanted to know and what they wanted to hear, but steered them away from revolution. That's what it did, because in 1920, there was the 1920s Firearms Act, where before 1920, you could actually buy firearms in the UK over the counter in much the same way as you can buy firearms over the counter in some states in America today. And that put the 1920s Firearms Act was hardly pushed through Parliament, because there was a lot of militant and very angry veterans that had come back from the war after fighting a war for the land fit for heroes and for land of milk and honey, coming back to absolute dire poverty and being, as my father was, diddled out of their pensions. So there's a lot of very angry people around, and the newspapers were silenced. And as I've often said, again, if you want to know the future, keep one eye in the past, because the past keeps history keeps repeating itself, and I can see history repeating itself today, especially when you see these muzzled twats walking around and people saying, oh yes, I can't wait to have a Bill Gates special. Yeah, well, they're welcome to it. And on that note, I will sign off with the last dirty joke. And I'm sorry, it's not the Avengers joke. As again, the best brains in the world are looking at this now, and we might make a scientific breakthrough to find out whether I can tell the Avengers gag without being booted off YouTube or Facebook. But in the meantime, 100 years from now, you can buy brains from around about this time, you see, for AI, for your robot. And people were buying, reconditioned brains to put into their robot, and they found that psychopaths and that were made quite good robots because they had no feelings or anything like that, and they'd just get on with their work and they could be reprogrammed, you see. So anyway, this bloke goes along to get a brain transplant for his robot, you see, because his robot is not working very well, and he goes along, the bloke says, oh, he said, we've got a special offer this week. Said, really? Yeah. He said, we've got quite a few psychos from the 2020s. Really? Yeah. And he said they've been put on ice, and they're in pretty good condition. So he said, well, what you got? He said, we've got this university statistician doctor who was paid by the Gates Foundation to say what they want him to say. He said, it must have been quite a psycho. He said, yeah. He said, and he said, that's about £3,000. He said, okay. He said, it's been on ice. It's a pretty good dick. So he goes along a bit more, and he said, we've got this other brain here. He said, this is a university professor who was also diddling the old, statistics for he paid off by the Gates Foundation. He said, that's £3,000 as well. So he goes along a bit like this. And he says, we've got this bloke for Hancock, he said, from the UK government. He was the one, as you know, that actually, shall we say, played the lottery machine with the, like a bingo caller with the statistical science, and did exactly what Bill Gates told him. He said, that he's £100,000. What? Hang on a minute. How comes the other two are so cheap and Hancock's is £100,000? He said, well, his brain was never used. Anyway, on that note, thank you very much for joining me today. Please join me definitely, next Monday. Tell others, so you could tell the bloke who delivered the embarrassing Christmas package to your next door neighbour that rapidly inflated, which should have done. Or you could tell the bloke who delivered the package to the other side, the other neighbour, to the lady, the other side, who you thought was an embarrassing package, but it turned out to be an electric toothbrush that turned itself on. Tell your cat, tell your dog, tell anybody that's interested. And then remember to ding that little bell, ding, 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 so you can be told when the next program's on. And I may be going on Christmas Day, so watch out. I'll try and do a do flop, on YouTube. I'll try to work that out. How you can tell people in advance. And hang on, let's have a look who we got in chat here. And I'll just say hello to a few people in chat. We got the Urban Stealth Campervan Man. Hello, you missed it again. Need a note from your parents, I'm afraid. I'm not sure where we can be talking, actually. I don't know if that's legal, because I'm in tier 4 and you're in tier 3, I think. So, wash your hands afterwards. I would if I was you. I'll blow your nose as well. And but I was going to say something about camper vans. I'm going to think of doing a camper van special. So it won't be political or anything like that. But what it'll be is good ideas and things like that. Because I'm, as I've said many times before, I'm thinking of actually buying a van and converting it and sodding off somewhere in the winter and going back in the summer. That's when hopefully things get back to normal, if ever. But And also, I'd like to do a call out for RV Licious in the Netherlands. And on their channel, they've written a book. Well, they've written several books because Petra and Patrick is a writer. I think Petra is as well. She does photography and that, and had some really interesting books. And we're going to, well, I'm hoping we could do a book session. So it might be a camper van special, a live one. So, you know, that'd be interesting if you're into camper vans. Well, hey, so thank you very much for joining me tonight. And I'll hopefully see you maybe Christmas Day and next Monday. And remember, tell others and ding the little bell. Night, night. And again, don't get depressed. You're not alone. I'll be depressed with you.